Good morning and welcome to Trends in the Papers on 98.3 Mainland FM, the sound of Lagos. Well, it's been quite an interesting night. It was quite an interesting evening last night when Nigeria triumphed over Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, whichever comes in to play at that yesterday at the match yesterday. It was quite an amazing run. Nigeria won 1-0 with a penalty from WH yes. Congratulations to Nigerians. I guess this gives us a boost of some sort. Now Nigeria is at the top of the table, so things are looking pretty good for us. We just need to keep living up to the expectations. Or our Super Eagles definitely needs to keep living up to the expectations of Nigerians. There's a whole lot that's now hanging by the thread. And to all of us, yes, I know there's some certain people who felt, or who just felt, well, I mean, it's not possible. I mean, this is the host country. Is it possible for us to beat it? There's a lot of people that had very slight hope, just very tiny hope that Nigeria was actually going to make it. But well, it's good to always use results to disappoint your enemies. Yeah. This is Mainland 98.3 FM. It's time for Trends in the Papers. We'll be looking through the major stories trending on the front pages of our dailies. It's going to be an interesting one. We have our papers here: The Punch, The Guardian, The Nation, and Vanguard newspaper in no particular order. And my name is Omobola Sandra. I won't be doing this alone. Fuad Sahid will be joining in via the phone line to give analysis to the stories that we're going to be treating this morning. We're going to be doing this up until 8:30. We'll take a break, and then by 8:40 we're back for Mainland Focus. And that's the part where you, our dear listener, you get to be part of the conversation. You share your thoughts and your contribution as regards the focus for the day. It's going to be an interesting one. Thank you for joining us, and also for those of us who also participated in the predict and win as regards the match yesterday. We'll get to you. We should get back to you before the end of today. Like I said, congratulations to Nigerians. Hopefully this would serve as some sort of beam of or beacon of hope, or just some sort of light through all of the challenges that we're going through collectively as Nigerians. All right, let's get to the stories that we have for this morning. I will be starting with the Punch newspaper. I have the Punch newspaper here. The major headline on the front page of the Punch says public outrage grows as kidnapping epidemic worsens. And we have writers there: 12 Zamfara varsity students official, 19 Abuja victims, 4 Akwa Ibom corps members among captives. Tinubu urged to tackle insecurity and food crisis at all costs. Bandits attack 10 Kaduna villages. All right. So good morning, Fuad.
Yeah, good morning, Sandra. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right. Okay, so let's just get to the story we have here. Apparently, the epidemic or the abduction crisis that we have found ourselves in recent times seems not to abate, as there's even it's just it's growing by the day, and it's just really, really unfortunate at this time now. So what we have now, outrage over rising insecurity in the country grew on Thursday as stakeholders are demanding tough actions by the federal government against kidnappers. And those who advise the federal government on the kidnapping epidemic includes the Supreme Council for Sharia, South governors, residents of affected communities, and the National Association of Nigeria Students. So there's a serious issue we have here for usually, or less, I don't know how to put this, but abductions were usually previously restricted to the northwest, but in recent times have spread to other parts of the country. And now we're talking abductions in Lagos, Ogun, Delta. Lagos, there was the Gwagada Expressway incident that happened earlier this week, and now even in Ogun State, in Delta State. And as it is now, of course, remember what happened in Buhari last week in the FCT, where bandits took their battles and kidnapped 23 people in Buhari area. So, expressing concern about the abduction epidemic, the South governors have urged the federal government to do more in the management of security in the country. The governors said, and I quote, "It's against this background that the South region must redefine its place and roles in economic development of Nigeria and for the benefit of the people. But Fuad, let's look at, we're still discussing insecurity. We're still, talking about insecurity, and there's the call. The call for state policing, the call for community policing is getting louder, is getting stronger by the day. Do you think in a short-term, mid-term situation that might be a faster solution?
Well, again, short-term, mid-term argument is going to be too complex for us to really get into this morning, Sandra. But something has to be done. And again, just as we've always done our part too, as the member of the fourth estate of the realm, looking at these issues, giving opportunities to Nigerians to all, I think, are also lending their voice, the security of lives and properties in Nigeria. So, again, a lot of people end with the call that, we have to begin to look at state policing, we have to begin we have to start to look at community policing and all of those kind of things. But the reality is that some of these things will not happen very fast. These are things that are a bit procedural. The legal processes, the legislative processes will take some time for us to really get them going. But in the meantime, I think that the president may also begin to look at working with the current structure we have, at least in the short term. And when I say the current structure, maybe this is the time for the president to also sit down with governors, especially the most troubled states. Look at what is happening with security votes. Look at how maybe some emergency kind of funding can be created. We have forest rangers, we have the Vigilante Association, we have the NCDC, we have the police. I think this is the time for all hands to be on deck. Let's look at what we have, and now we can make what we have work in the temporary, while we are looking at the bigger picture of state policing, community policing. That will take some time to happen, if you understand what I'm saying. So it has to be a collective effort. Local government chairmen have to also stand up now and do their own part of the deal. State governors, this is not the time to just pocket security votes. This is time to really deploy security votes into the local community. There's no reason why we can't involve even CDAs for intelligence gathering. There's no reason why we can't, at least in the minimum, involve vigilante groups, local securities. Everybody now has to come together to do something, because it's widespread. Whether we like it or not, yes, some of these guys are in the bushes, but a lot of times too, in some other communities, you discover that they are in abandoned buildings, they are in obscure areas that people don't even take note of. Even traditional rulers, it's not just that you are a ballet, you have all these 괰ᴜᴜ, no. Or begin to, this is the time for them to also stand up and be a part of solving the problem of insecurity in the country, while we also agree and accept that the president must now look at the bigger picture of starting a legislative framework for us to have state and community policing. There's no other way. The current structure is over-centralized, it's not working. And if it's not working today, it may not even work tomorrow. It's most likely to not even work tomorrow. So we have to now look at the bigger picture going forward.
Well, let's look at another angle here. The executive director of the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, Awal Musta Rafsanjani, said public officials must be patriotic in their dealings. It's coming from this angle forward. He said, and I quote, "Insecurity has become a huge business to wicked public officials while Nigerians are killed. Money meant to procure arms and ammunition and training of personnel are being looted. Just recently, a U.S. court ordered that some funds be returned to Nigeria, and they will not want insecurity to end, except people are patriotic and committed to service. Insecurity will continue." So, what's your analysis of that particular situation? The fact
I didn't get that part of it. I think I missed that part of it. What Rafsanjani was saying.
Insecurity has become a huge business to wicked public officials. While Nigerians are killed, money meant to procure arms and ammunition and training of personnel are being looted. Just recently, a U.S. court ordered that some funds be returned to Nigeria. They will not want insecurity to end. Except people are patriotic and committed to service, insecurity will continue. So we're looking at it from the angle of the executive director of the civil society now, looking at the fact that a lot of funds are being disbursed to combat these issues, but some people are siphoning the funds, and because these funds are not getting down to the level of the guys that are actually doing the job down there, it's difficult for us to actually get results. So what would you also suggest, or what would you also counsel as regards, corruption in the security framework?
In the system, yes.
Yes.
Well, again, you can't fault this argument, Sandra. It's extremely difficult to fault this kind of thinking. Again, if you look at what we put into security every year, a larger chunk, a very large chunk of our budget every year goes into security. And then, of course, a lot of them are supposed to be to buy weapons, improve on intelligence gathering. And again, of course, to motivate the guys, at the war front, the guys who are facing this challenge, the guys who have put their lives, on the line for the security of Nigerians. But again, I think it was even the Chief of Defense Staff in one of his appearances before the Senate that said up till now, Sandra, I think you see how soldiers who are paid 40,000 naira per month.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of the ministerial briefings of, while he was, appearing before the House. And even if you look at the police, too, you need to wonder, what is the level of investment? How well are we even taking care of these guys? Equipment-wise, I think a lot of police stations have been improved now. It used to be very terrible, what you see, the environment, the police barracks and all of that. So, just like every other sector of the Nigerian economy or the public space, you may want to ask that, look, hope we are not also dealing with serious systemic corruption, where money is going to these things but does not trickle down, doesn't get used for what, they are appropriated for. And I want to agree that to a great extent, you are going to see elements of corruption. Sometimes a lot of these security officials at the highest level have some questionable wealth. I think you were the one that pointed my attention to
the general.
One retired general. And the list of properties they listed for a retired general, we're wondering, was he doing some other businesses apart from being a member of the Nigerian military? He had hotels, he had houses, he had all of those kind of things. And people have continued to say that, look, we need to also look at corruption within the system. Look, a lot of these monies may not really be getting used for what they are voted for. Then apart from even monies appropriated for security, look at what happened to the former police chief, Kyari. Where he's now been alleged, even rise to the US, where he's also a connivance with criminals.
The same Abakari that some people are calling for him to come back to combat this
kidnapping. The people that are calling for his come, I don't know what they're saying. I think I will probably be the best person to explain to them how badly Kyari performed as a police chief. If you understand what I'm saying. Look, no matter how efficient you think you are, when there are elements of corruption and those kind of indicting issues around you, it completely erodes whatever you may think you have achieved. And you even begin to question it. If we are now getting allegations of Kyari, being in connivance with Hush Puppy, being in connivance with drug syndicates in the country, who says you won't have people like that who are also working with kidnappers? Because it's all about money. It's all about making money. So I agree that we need to look at the system to begin to check, incidences of corruption and bad behavior among our security operatives. If we're really going to tackle this issue of insecurity, Sandra.
Well, there's still a whole lot more to take away from this particular story, but the truth is the state of insecurity in the country is becoming a shame. And we have here a security analyst is calling for the declaration of a state of emergency on the Nigerian security architecture, saying political will on the part of those on the corridor to end insecurity menace would be needed. Fuad, declaration of a state of emergency on the Nigerian security architecture. What says you?
That's just mere semantics. Yeah, I agree. When we say declare state of emergency, it means that all hands must be on deck now. You probably have to put other issues to the background and focus on security. And whether we like it or not, Sandra, we are looking at a $1 trillion economy. We are looking at making more money for the government. We are planning to build roads. We are planning to build schools. We want to improve on the health sector. We want to ensure food security and all of those kind of things. Sandra, it starts with our ability to first be able to secure ourselves and our properties. Every other thing comes secondary. The most primary responsibility, the primary responsibility of any government, anywhere in the world, is the security of lives and properties of the people. Every other thing comes after it. And so I agree that with the level of insecurity we have in the country, all hands must now be on deck. We can declare state of emergency in the manner of speaking, but the reality is that we now have. That's why I said that everybody must now be a part of it. Even communities, even individuals. This is the time to see something, say something. This is the time for community leaders, landlord associations. I'm sure we're going to get to the story of Ibadan, Sandra, that explosion. And you will see why it's also important for us as people within the community to begin to open our eyes and be a part of solving the problem of insecurity in the country. So I agree, we need to do something very urgently to arrest this monster of insecurity in the country.
Okay, but as regards political will, do you think that there's the political will from our politicians to actually get this thing done? Because solving insecurity, according to some security experts, they say it's not just about military might. It's not just about the fact that the military are put out there, or there's a change in architecture and whatnot. But what about the role of the politicians in this societal threat?
Sandra, when it comes to political will, I think for now the bulk of that stops at the desk of the president. The political will we are talking about here is to punish people. Severe punishment. Heavy punishment. You understand? And I think it has to be a decision that the president has to now make. That look, as far as my government is concerned, this is not the time to begin to rub the ego of criminals. This is not the time to begin to listen to people who will continue to talk about negotiations with terrorists and bandits and killers. This is the time that, look, my own government, the policy is that, look, we go after you, we exterminate you if possible, we arrest you, and when we arrest you, you are made to face the law. The full wrath of the law comes heavy on you. If you set that example, every other person will follow suit. Because what we saw with the last administration is that there was really no decisive measures. Too many indecisions. It was the era where people were talking about negotiations, kinetic and non-kinetic. It was the era where we're seeing people talking about, granting amnesty. You now had even officials of government arguing that if Niger Delta militants could be granted amnesty, why not the bandits? And I say, look, what kind of nonsensical argument is that? How do you begin to argue what, Niger Delta militants at that time, which was more about economic sabotage and a fight for maybe control of resources and all. What are these bandits and kidnappers? What is their ground now to begin to now link the two together? These are people who just go into people's communities, kidnap them, kill them, and are demanding for ransom. There's even no economic argument to it.
Thank you very much.
So I agree that but I think it's just the president that has to now take a decision on that.
Okay, thank you very much, Ted, for that. Well, more details of that on pages 2 and 12 of the Punch newspaper. Public outrage grows as kidnapping epidemic worsens. The story is on pages 2 and 12. You can get all of the details there. Insecurity is a societal threat and it's a collective problem. So it's something that we all need to, all hands on deck. Let's have a conversation as regards that. Well, time check is 8 o'clock and you are listening to Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. We're live on Facebook and YouTube at Mainland 98.3 FM. So do well to join us and drop a comment in the live chat section. All right, moving on, still on the front page of the Punch. Inspector General of Police presents 2 billion naira to families of deceased corpse in Abuja. And that story is on page 12 of the Punch newspaper. So just very, very quickly, the IG, Olukayode Egbetokun, on Thursday presented 2.08 billion naira checks to families of police officers who died in active service in the last 5 years, and presented the checks to 785 beneficiaries at the force headquarters in Abuja, noting that no amount of money could equate to the lives of the deceased corpse. The money is a group life assurance and IGP family welfare scheme package. Fuad, these are the kind of things one would expect from the Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development Ministry. What do you think?
Sandra. What did? We which road you can't enter now?
I'm just saying.
Well, the smooth road you enter gallop.
No, because look at that. I mean, just look at that. Isn't it beautiful to read?
Well, I'm sure these are entitlements of the wives of some of our fallen heroes in the police force. And it's nice that at least these entitlements are now being presented.
That they are getting it, yes.
Yes, I think we should encourage the police to do more of this and ensure that these entitlements get to them as and when due. For those that are not terminal, like things that are supposed to come to them every month. I think I was listening to the wife of the Association of Deceased Police Officers and Army Officers too, saying that look, they need to also look at supporting the children when it comes to their
education
and all of those, even when it comes to employment and things. I think there's nothing too much really to support the families of our heroes. They are heroes because these are people who put their lives on the line, for us to have a secure, security in the country. So it's a good one, but to now bring in these humanitarian people into this conversation is the problem, Sandra. They should solve it.
I'm just saying that
they are supposed to be a part of this, by extension, looking at the welfare of maybe families of these people.
Not even just of these people. Is the way it is being done. The fact that the transparency, everybody is there. You see the faces of the people that are receiving these funds, and you say, and it's an insurance, check that's given to them. So it's not that there's a cash that they are giving to them. All right, so it's something that's okay. Maybe monthly it will be disbursed directly into their account, or so that's how it's run. I'm just they were asking that this mode of social development, or social welfare.
Yeah, I think more needs to be done. Like I said, any other thing that we can do to support families because again, there's nothing you can give to them that can bring back the lives that have been lost. You understand what I'm saying? If you look at a widow, for example, that has 3 or 4 kids still in school, now the husband is dead. It's not a small thing to handle. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. That kind of family would need continuous support. If you understand what I'm saying. Yes. That's something that we can also look at empowerment. That's where the Ministry of Humanitarian and Poverty Alleviation can also come in. Beyond this insurance handouts and all of kind of other benefits, one can also look at empowering some of these wives to maybe pick a trade, pick a kind of vocation,
long term,
and then get them to also be able to fend for themselves
in the long term. Thank you very much, Fad. The story is on page 12. Moving on now, we also have here on the front page of the Punch, Supreme Court Abiodun Adebutu learn fate today, and that story
9 of them.
Is on page 14 of the Punch newspaper. So the Supreme Court will today give the final verdict as regards Ogun State. Now this is the focus here is on Ogun State. So what we have is the PDP and its candidate in the governorship election on March 18, 2023, Ladi Adebutu, is challenging the victory of Governor Dapo Abiodun of the APC in the election. What we have now is that both sides are expressing strong optimism, but then as soon as we get things, I'm sure if it's before Situation Room, I will definitely have a conversation.
And it's not just Ogun State.
Yes, not just Ogun State. There are 9 other states.
9 states today. Yes.
9 total.
You have, I think, Delta, Nasarawa, Taraba State. 9 states today. Supreme Court will also make a final verdict on them.
Thank you very much. Now, I also have here police to pay 50 million naira for arresting Abiola's widow in nightgown, and that is on page 14.
I don't know why the report put nightgown there.
It's nightgown.
When you read the story, I'm wondering how the nightgown thing came into
how it came into play. Let's check it out. The Federal Capital Territory High Court in Gudu, Abuja, on Thursday ordered the IGP, that's the Inspector General of Police, to pay 50 million naira damages to the widow of the late Chief MKO Abiola, Professor Zainab, for violating her fundamental rights by arresting and parading her while wearing only a nightgown. All right. Well, they also ordered the police to apologize to her in 2 national newspapers. As what we have is that she has alleged that police officers in 2022 invaded her residence in Abuja and arrested her while she was wearing a nightgown and whisked her to the station. And she told the court that she was detained and tortured for 3 days without trial.
That's the crux of the matter for me, Sandra.
The fact that she was kept and tortured for 3 days without trial.
Detention, torture, and kept for 3 days without trial.
That's it.
That's the issue for me. Yes, the nightgown thing, I agree. As a lady, there has to be some level of decency in the operations of the police. But then, to now keep her, torture her, and then keep her for 3 days without trial. Again, it speaks to the mode of operation of the police. This is getting to the news because she's a professor and she has the money to fight her case. On a daily basis, I'm sure a lot of Nigerians face things like this. And they can't even fight it.
You just hear of raids in some parts of Mushin. Just came, pack people, and that's it. And
they keep them for days, and then you come one by one to come and bail yourself.
Whoever has money that can bail, that will be out.
You see the problem. Can you now see the problem? They all pack people, Abby.
Just pack people. They say it's raids.
Or they call them raids.
They call it raids. No, they say it's raids. They are reading. They got a tip off. Is that right?
And then the more the people, the more the you know what we've heard, Sandra, is that look, the kind of business going on in some police stations is more than a banking hall. Look.
Bail is free.
They say some police stations. Some, I'm saying what we are allegedly.
Bail is free.
Now what goes
but the
on
process
in some
for
police
bail may
the
not be
transaction,
free.
Buying and selling.
That's what I'm saying. I say bail is free, but the process for bailing may not be free.
Well, what's the process for bail that is not free?
I don't know. Because why are people paying money?
Bail is free.
Yeah, bail is free. But the process.
What was the process for getting bail in the police station? Sandra, now you said bail is free, but the process is not free.
I didn't say bail is free. The police force said bail is free. They are the ones that said bail is free.
But the process is not free. Did they put the process is not free there? You are the one that put that one there.
I don't know. Did you hear me say that?
Well, honestly, they say some police stations, the buying and selling going on.
So we have
it even in the banking hall.
So we have the business of politics, and now we have the business of security.
Policing. There's this meme going on, I think, on Twitter or X, where people are saying, I've been thinking about what kind of business I can do this year. My brain don't nearly pause.
Someone says you can open police station.
Setting up a police station.
Says recruiting for police
but
station.
The Abiola matter is very unfortunate that the widow of Chief MP Abiola, one of the heroes of Nigeria's democracy, he was the hero of Nigeria's fourth republic, democracy as we have it, will face that kind of thing. But she's been able to push her case, and she's not going to get a compensation of 50 million naira paid to her by the police, an apology too. But like I've said, it just goes into the operations of the police, where people are, where people's rights are violated almost on a daily basis. How do you just arrest someone? She's in a nightgown. You couldn't even wait for her to dress up properly. Was she resisting arrest? And then you take her to the police station, you parade her. This is even issue of parade. You arrest her, and the next thing you are parading people before the press. I've seen human rights lawyers who have said that, look, that in itself is a daily violation of the people's rights. Because the law of Nigeria still says that an accused is presumed innocent until found guilty. And then you arrest, the person is supposed to appear. Even before they appear before the court, you put them before the camera. And Nigerians, immediately you appear before the camera, they already find you guilty in their mind. He's guilty at that. So people have also questioned this idea of parading people before the cameras, putting them to what we call media trial before the proper trial of the court. And then the idea of now torturing people. What does the law say about torture? And that's why most times when the police now gets it to the court, and then a suspect tells the judge that, look, I wrote this statement under duress. They tortured me. At that point, it invalidates whatever statement the police has brought as prosecution. But should Nigerians be tortured? So again, we have to look, and that's why I say that the issue here is the torture, the manner of arrest, the parade, and the fact that she was kept in police station for 3 days without trial.
All right. More details on page 14. This is still trends in the papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. We also have here, just above the masthead of the Punch, reps order ministries to return 85 billion naira COVID-19 funds. That is on page 15 of.
How would they see? You don't go.
Have they spent it? Where did you go to for it?
86 billion. COVID. What year was that?
COVID-19.
It's not 2020.
Yes.
To return it. If they are lucky, I doubt if anything will be returned.
All right.
But let's have the story.
The House of Reps Public Accounts Committee has directed the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade. Isn't that the same ministry that wanted to use 3 billion or 1 billion to go for seminar?
I want to do what?
This Industry, Trade and Investments Ministry.
Yes.
Wanted to use 1 billion to go for a seminar in Geneva.
In Geneva.
Okay, it's the same one. All right.
Maybe they've used part of the fund. Don't be so. These are begin to give account. You hear that we use 1 billion on how to disburse the fund.
Well, the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment have been directed to refund the 75 billion naira allocated to it as COVID-19 intervention funds, and they have also ordered the Ministry of Health to return the 10 billion naira released to it to produce COVID-19 vaccine.
As far as I know,
sorry for the laugh.
Sandra, we got donations. So did we produce anything here ourselves?
They were doing tests. So they were doing tests. We had labs. We had
virologists
that were doing tests.
And you know that most of the test kits were also donated to us, Sandra. So this 10 billion that went to the ministry to produce vaccine, did we produce any vaccine?
Well, this resolution was sequel to a motion moved by Basi Akiba, a member of the Labour Party from Cross River State, following the non-appearance of officials of the ministry at its investigative hearing. We need to talk about the fact that, they invite ministers, they invite public officials for interrogation, for investigation, or for probing, and they do not appear. I think it's something that. What do you think, Fad?
No, it's just ridiculous. It happened with the service chiefs too, and they eventually had to appear. And then when you have public officials, the reality is that I think our public officials, some of these guys have access to money. They're stealing so much to the point where they see themselves as even bigger than the government. I'm telling you, we're not talking about politicians now. We're talking about some of our civil servants in these ministries, agencies, and parastatals. They have access to so much money that they even see themselves as bigger than anybody. So when they call them, they look at themselves more about what is in their account balance than the job they are supposed to do and they've not done. And I think they must understand that, no matter what we say about our politicians, the Nigerian Senate today and House of Representatives are not there by themselves. They are representatives of the people. So when they call any government official or public official to answer questions, they must understand that it is the entire Nigeria that is calling them. These are the representatives of the people. And so they have a right to do their oversight function, which is part of what they are doing, to investigate some of these things, operations of agencies and parastatals, especially when it comes to public funds. So when they call them and they don't appear, it is completely ridiculous. And I thought sometimes some of them should be arrested. That's why some of them will now come without any document and begin to faff around during probe. Look at the 10 billion. I don't know about the Ministry of Trade anyways. I'm even surprised that they got that such huge amount.
Exactly. That's another thing. Why is trade and I am sure
that they got the money to support businesses that were struggling during COVID. If you check, the reason they got it was to use that money to, a lot of to fold up at that time. Some were distressed because of the issue of COVID, lockdown and everything. And I'm sure that ministry got that money to get some businesses back to life. The thing don't go. We didn't see anything.
Well,
vaccine we didn't see.
And what we have now is that the Federal Ministry of Trade was to make the appearance day before yesterday. That was Wednesday, and that was the last opportunity, and there was no appearance. And the former permanent secretary and current permanent secretary are affected by this motion to refund this money because as far as the committee is concerned, the money has not been expended. So the committee, the Federal Ministry of Health, on its part, sent a representative, the permanent secretary, WG=, who informed the committee that the funds were domiciled in the office of the Accountant General of the Federation. So they are
deposited.
That's where the money is.
So they admitted that the money is still there.
And that's where it is. That's what the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Health said, that the money is domiciled with the office of the Accountant General. So the committee, it's not with them. So the committee.
So why didn't they use it for the provision of vaccine?
Or was it ever disbursed to them? Maybe it was signed off to them, but what did they?
When you see all these domiciles, money is still somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sure the House of Reps will not be questioning this money if there's no suspicion that the thing don't move. You don't understand?
Mm-mm.
Because if the money is there from 2020 till now, I doubt it really. But again, the House of Reps should do their job. This is time to also bring in PFCC and all of work to do.
Well,
so they should just return the money. If the money is there, let them show that the money is still available. That's the most important thing.
Well, that's for the Federal
and why did
Ministry
not use the money
of Health. The committee has said that, or that directed that the money should be returned, and they have stressed that the ministry might choose to reapply to the National Assembly for the money if they still need it.
We'll see how that goes. It's just one of those things that we have already talked about.
All right. Well, they have also, in a related development, the committee also directed the Director General of the Rural Electrification Agency. That's the first time I'm hearing that one. Well, Rural Electrification Agency.
Yes.
All right. Has been directed to submit documents detailing the utilization of the agency's COVID-19 intervention funds.
People get COVID-19 intervention go. Rural Electrification
Agency, COVID-19 funds.
What was the COVID for rural electrification?
For rural COVID-19. So that there will be light.
Sorry?
So that there will be light.
Light and COVID. How does that connect?
Because you can't be hot. They said heat.
So Rural Electrification Agency also got COVID funds.
Yes.
To do what precisely?
Apparently. There's a lot of questions.
So they shared amongst. Sandra, can we just move on?
We should move on.
Oh my goodness. Sorry?
We should move on from the fact that there is a Rural Electrification Agency that got COVID-19 intervention funds. Okay.
But COVID and rural electrification.
Yes.
I'm still trying to put the two together.
When you're done, please come back and let us know what you were able to come up with. Let's move on to the Guardian newspaper. This is Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. Thank you for staying with us. The major headline on the front page of the Guardian: Food for Education, how poor planning and corruption ruined 200 billion naira school feeding initiative in states. So we have Nigeria suffers serious childhood malnutrition. More than 42% of school children in Nigeria, and malnutrition is responsible for 49% absenteeism of primary school age children. So under NSIPA, about 12 million naira was spent monthly to feed over 10 million pupils during school term in over 53,000 schools. Former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Umar Farouk, claimed that school feeding program gulped 200.9 billion naira. Well, that's interesting. The big story is on pages 4 and 5 of the Guardian newspaper. School feeding program forward. I don't know if you remember, we treated this story some months ago. I think it was last year, where in some states, I think some states were complaining that they stopped getting the money after like 3 months or 6 months or so. Different states were coming in with their reports as regards this school feeding program. Yes, and the school feeding initiative, which was an initiative of the federal government, APC-led federal government, and was ab initio meant to push back on the rather embarrassing growing proportion of out-of-school children, estimated to have reached 20 million children. So if we have a lot of out-of-school children, the fact is that most of these out-of-school children, the reason why they're out is because they were malnourished.
How does that even make
that's why they are not coming to school, because they don't have food to eat.
Food in school, that's why they are not coming.
That's why they are not coming to school. That was the aim of it.
You see some of these ridiculous arguments that will now lead to creating programs that are open to serious corruption, that just creates an opportunity, and that's what we are saying is a complete failure. Yes, I agree that sometimes some of these initiatives are not completely bad, even though the initial argument for creating them is faulty. Yes, okay, you want to feed school children because of the high level of poverty, probably was going to encourage children and then support indigent families. Fine, on that basis. But it's not to say that the reason why people are out of school is because there's no food in school for them to eat. And then when there is food in school, they will come. What about their uniform? What about the writing material?
The books?
And then when you eat in school, what would you eat at home? A lot of the people who don't even send their children to school have kept them okay. Look at the imaginary problem we have in the north. So it's beyond what you are going to even eat in school. It's because the entire family itself is heavily impoverished. It's not about food alone. And then you now have this feeding problem. Well, Sadiya Farouk is under proof.
Well,
but we always question it. That even during COVID, this woman was saying she was still feeding school children when they were at home. And the impunity at that time, nobody could question them. They were not even ready to answer to anybody. Right. It was the same woman that said 5,000 was going to solve the problem of people. And look at what we have now, a complete mess.
That ministry was.
I think
that ministry was a very healthy ministry. It was a very, very wealthy ministry. They had so much money, just billions, just rolling out money.
Sorry.
Well, no, I'm talking as regards the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry. It was a very, very wealthy ministry. Findings have shown that the absence of food vendors, poor quality, small portions of food, as well as non-payment of vendors were among the myriad of problems which threaten sustainability of the scheme. Opinions are, however, divided on the relevance of the program. Some stakeholders are arguing that the scheme would address the growing number of out-of-school children. There was a growing vote of no confidence among others who insisted that the scheme has failed to meet its objectives given the high rate of out-of-school children in the country, and complaints from both pupils and vendors. So now, as regards if we can actually make the school feeding program work, we have here experts are giving opinions as regards that. So Chairman Parents Teacher Association in Ondo State, Abimbola Omojola, advised that a committee comprising parents, teachers, officials of the Ministry of Education and SUBEB should be set up to monitor the program. What do you think, Fuad? The program is currently suspended. Do you think it should be reintroduced?
I think it should remain suspended. Of course, Papa. Sandra, what we should do, I'm telling you, see, there are things that work easily in other places. But because of who we are, we know ourselves, Sandra. I know you, you know me, and we know ourselves. Because of who we are and our peculiarities, this thing will just be a cesspit of corruption. We know we can't run this thing. We cannot. For example, even this cash handouts and all of those things. In some other places, it could work. But because of who we are and our peculiarities and our tendencies for corruption, these things will not work. So instead we just leave it. I would think that the government should double their efforts and work hard to ensure that families are able to thrive doing businesses, get gainfully employed, to the extent where they are empowered to be able to send their children to school and then also feed their children without waiting for government. That's what we should be doing. And how do we do that? Instead of talking about school feeding, First, we should look at how to make, at least in the minimum, primary and secondary education free and qualitative in Nigeria. If you ask me, people are going to come up with the argument that government cannot. I say government can fund it. A government that can use 5 billion to be renovating housing. A government that can use 3 billion to build car park. 15 billion for this and that.
Right.
30 billion to renovate the National Assembly. Sandra, Nigerian government can run free and qualitative education for indigent Nigerians. And then ensure that people are empowered to the point where when the students go to these schools, they can feed them without waiting for government.
All right, thank
That's
you.
what we should be looking at.
All right, we don't have so much time left, very few minutes left, so let's just quickly run through the other stories that we have. Finally, on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, states tighten noose on mining as Ibadan explosion, death toll now 5. So as global mining and metals companies in Davos at the World Economic Forum commit to urgent action to support a nature positive future by 2030 that promotes health, diversity and natural processes and all, subnational governments are still in a quandary over how to check the menace of illegal mining and effectively regulate the sector following the explosion that happened in Ibadan in Oyo State. Your thoughts, Fuad, very quickly as regards mining in Nigeria and illegal mining.
The mining conversation is a very big one, and
yes,
really we don't really have the time. But I think that we need to look at while everything under the soil is still on the exclusive list. The reason why it has become illegal. So what people just say is that, well, if it's a federal government thing now, we'll find a way to just do it illegally in our own state. And that's why people are saying that, look, this illegal mining cannot happen without the knowledge of government, whether at the local or state level. Because mining equipment are not, you have to use excavators, you have heavy equipment to do some of this mining. And then the kind of manpower that you need, you cannot just say this illegality is going on across the country without the knowledge of government. So it's either we are deceiving ourselves or we are ready to tell ourselves the real truth. But like I said, it's a big conversation that we just have to, but I think we need to do something about illegal mining now that it has become a national security threat and also taking people's lives. The number of dead in Ibadan now is risen to 5, according to the papers.
Thank you very much.
And if you look at the names of people that have been declared wanted, they are not even Nigerians, Usanda.
They said that the report is that they're Malian illegal miners. That's the report that we've been getting from. Yes, Malian illegal miners. That's the one that happened at Ibadan. That's what I'm referring to. Yes, that. And
they said they've been disguising as Okada riders. Mr. John from Ogba has always talked about this Okada rider. Yes, you look at the paper. They say that the real people that said they rented the place have been disguising as Okada riders. So even with people within the community knows them, and they've always suspected their activity.
All right. Well, the riders to that, mining leaders make landmark commitments for 2013 Davos. Oyo Assembly reveals identity of alleged miner behind Ibadan explosion. People working for illegal miners have explosive in apartments, says ex-Oyo lawmaker. Illegal miners claimed federal government approvals, says Oyo State. Insecurity. Zamfara, Kogi revoke and ban issuance of consent letter to miners. The story is on page 6, and just as Fuad has said, it's a big story. It's not something we can rush or gloss through or gloss over, rather. All right, finally, we just run through the other stories that we have. On the front page of Vanguard, impact of fuel subsidy removal, tough on Nigerians, and that's coming from Tinubu. And it says here in the riders, parents, guardians, students experiencing discomfort, subsidy removal, naira scarcity, others heightening panic and hardship, says Catholic bishops. Kick against blessing of homosexual and same-sex marriages. Expedite action to cushion effects of your hard economic decisions, Sharia Council tells Tinubu, and asks the president to tackle insecurity headlong. The story is on page 5 of Vanguard newspaper. Adeleke dethrones 3 monarchs over faulty selection process. That's on page 13. We also have here Abia. Police who invaded TV station to face orderly room trial, says PPRO. That's on page 14 of Vanguard newspaper. And on the front page of The Nation, we have the major headline: federal government charges Emefiele with lying to obtain $6.2 million. It's all right. The story is on page 4 of The Nation newspaper. We also have APC rules out automatic ticket for Aida Tiwa. It will be a level playing field. That's on page 5 of the Nation newspaper.
We look at that on political.
Of course. That's going to be an interesting one. Say it's not automatic just because you just got it few days to elections. You will do primaries. If you don't win, sorry about that. All right, well, that's it for trends in the papers. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back for Midland Focus. This is Midland 98.3 FM, and my name is Omobola Sandra.
The Financial Services